Well, it's been raining and it's cold out here, and I wouldn't even be coming out. I'm just out in my backyard, pretty much, about 100 steps from my front door on the back side. But you know, Whiskey wanted to come out. He'll always go out no matter what. And so here we are out here. I'm glad you're with me. Welcome, neighbors. Welcome to the high plains of White Mountain atop the Mogollon Rim at 7,000 feet. So glad you're with me. Let's see what we find today. Let's see what we find out today in this overcast, chilly, but beautiful day. Alrighty, here we are. I like this little road. A lot of the horses, the wild horses, travel this road and go up and down. You see all kinds of tracks out here. This is the burn area. You can see there's been some burn, a lot of new pines and new growths because there was a major fire here 18 years ago. And it's been burned a little bit, but it's glorious. Even chilly like it is today. Hey, how are y'all? Glad you're with me. Welcome to the Mogollon Rim, the White Mountain. I come out here and I just think, and certain things come to me. Never know quite what's going to come to me, but I think. Thinking can be dangerous, especially when it's me, but I don't think that hard, so not that dangerous. But it's amazing how coming out and just being in the quiet out here, just quiet, it's wonderful. And you can see off in the distance the beautiful clouds coming down against the horizon out there on the hillside. And I was thinking, you know, I've been married now for over 50 years. In fact, in about 3 more months we'll be up at our 51st wedding anniversary. 50 years! And I once had a colleague, he's passed on now, but probably 25 years ago I had a colleague. He's a counselor, worked with me in one of the churches. And he was saying that's the problem with a beautiful long marriage. And I said, what's that? And he said, well, you've got 40, 50 years, whatever it is, of wonderful, wonderful times, and then one of you dies, and then it's misery for the one who's left. And it got me thinking. About that. About whether that was inevitable. Maybe I thought for a while I was thinking, well, maybe that's why people don't get married. They just have a life full of transient relationships because they don't want to ever face that eventuality of joy and bliss being turned into misery. And I thought about that a lot. And then I started thinking about being alone. I haven't got time to go into this in the detail I'd like to, but I thought about being alone. And now most of us don't really want to be alone. We say we do, but everybody knows what loneliness is. And when I say loneliness, I'm not talking about the same thing as being alone. You can be alone and not be lonely. You can also be in a relationship, not alone, and be lonely. Many have had that experience. But I've done some funerals in my years as being a pastor. And usually funerals are sad affairs. You've got the lonely people, the ones that are left, and they're very often, especially if it's a spouse, weeping, or the children or the parents or whoever, weeping and suffering because of their loneliness. And I've thought a lot about it. I've thought that perhaps the grief of loneliness is greatly enhanced, exacerbated, heightened, made worse by the idea and the fact that we become attached to each other. We become, if I can say it this way, dependent upon one another. We become so attached that we can't bear, or think we can't bear to be without the other. And I wondered if that was love. We call it love. We say it's love when we're jealous. We say it's love when we're despondent if one leaves. We say it's love if we're panic-stricken, if we're left alone or left without the other, if we're betrayed by the other, if the other dies. We go through all of this suffering, which can include depression, can include anger, can include panic, maybe all of these things. And I wondered, we call those things love, but is any of that really love? Is it love to be jealous? Is it love to be so despondent that your life seems to be over when the other person is gone? Was that love? I thought a lot about Jesus and his life. Remember, a couple things occurred to me. Remember when Jesus was talking to a group of his disciples and somebody came and said, your mother and your brothers and your family are outside waiting to speak to you. And he said, these are my mother and my brothers. And it seemed so heartless, like he was sort of renouncing his mother, his family. But really, he was demonstrating something that was greater than dependence or attachment. He was demonstrating that when you love, there aren't favorites, there aren't jealousies, there aren't attachments, there aren't dependencies, there isn't despondence if the other one leaves. And I'm wondering if really, unless we have arrived there, is what we call love really love? I was also thinking about the first Psalm, which talks about the tree planted by the rivers of water, bears fruit in his own season, just standing there. Not alone because of all the other trees around, all the other vegetation. The river of water's right there. But alone in the sense that it needs none of them. It just is what it is. It is the tree. And I wondered if in some way if we could understand or grasp or maybe just face the possibility that our despondence or suffering or jealousies or whatever it is that surround our relationships with the people whom we say or we think we love. I'm wondering if there's not a really greater or true love that comes when we recognize and realize that to be so dependent, so attached, probably isn't really love at all. It's probably just attachment. And yes, you can miss the person. And there is that. But more important than that is if I'm not attached, and when I say attached, I mean connected to another, even my wife or my husband, to the point where their behavior or their presence either supports or destroys my life, or supports or destroys my emotional well-being, or my psychological well-being. I wonder if maybe if I can face this with a certain amount of courage, and for me it does take courage to face this. I wonder if it may be that I haven't really loved the person, loved my wife as much as I thought. Because I'm also wondering if you can actually love someone that you're attached to in such a way that their presence or their behavior is required for you to be happy or fulfilled. I wonder if that's love. I wonder if it isn't more love, more freeing to love, if you didn't have that, what I suspect is unhealthy attachment, unhealthy dependence, and we're free just to love. Hey, Whiskey, you having fun? Oh, he's having a ball. Look at this guy. He's amazing. Hello, buddy. You having fun? You got your bells on? You got your bells on? What are you finding? You protecting me, making sure nobody's around? No bad animals, I mean. It's okay if people are around. Okay, bad animals around too. So the older I'm getting, and the longer I'm married, here's what happens. I want to love my wife more and more deeply and more authentically than ever before. I say I've loved her, I've been faithful to her, loved her in my own way, but with a certain dependence that ends up being weakness and selfishness and perhaps lacking the very love that I say I want. And I'm wondering if I can disregard, if I can say it that way, negate, get rid of, choose away from that dependence and love her just because love is its own virtue, and love her in a way that knows that I can survive if she's gone, just as she can if I'm gone. I think I don't want to be dependent and be despondent. I don't want to be so needy and so needing the presence or behavior of another in such a way that if that presence or behavior isn't there, that I somehow feel like I can't go on. I don't think I'm much different than a lot of people. I think there may be lots of people who love their spouses, love their sons and daughters, love their parents, love their girlfriends, love their boyfriends, whatever, love their partners. But we get all mixed up. Our heads play games with us. We get all mixed up with emotion. And our love really ends up being sort of a childish and self-destructive and painful dependence. I think to be like that tree planted by the rivers of water is a great modeled ambition. I think that's how Jesus was. He was like that tree. He didn't have any favorites. He loved, but he loved because he loved like a flower. And I'm going to end here because this is long enough. He loved like a flower. Think about a flower. A beautifully aromatic, perfumed flower with a beautiful scent. That is what the flower is. It is not dependent on who's smelling it or who's walking by or whether anybody appreciates it. It just is the flower. And wouldn't that be a great way to live? To just be the loving person whose love is not based or conditioned by the person that receives it or feels it or is the benefactor of it. But it's just who that person is, that flower, that tree by the rivers of water. Talking like this and hearing myself say it only makes me sense a deeper love, not only for my wife, but my friends and my children, my family, and everyone. Because it gives me a glimpse of who I believe I was meant to be. And maybe it's who you're meant to be as well. Thanks for being with me. If you like, hit the subscribe button. And think about being that flower, that tree, if you want to. It's who you are. You know, when Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you, it's that tree and that flower that just is beautiful and aromatic and not dependent on anybody's reaction of any kind. Thanks again for being with me. See you next time. Best to you all. Best of everything. God bless you. And welcome back the next time.